Alternative formats for this presentation can be found on the Financial Services website. Visit or contact us at the Financial Services training page. Email us at finance.training@queensu.ca or give us a call at 613-533-2050. The General Ledger and why ChartFields matter. In this tutorial, topics will include the General Ledger, the university's fiscal year and accounting periods, ChartFields and why they matter. We will define the various chart fields and identify required chart fields versus those that are optional, how to request a new chart field, and other tips and noteworthy items. Part 1. The General Ledger. The General Ledger, commonly referred to as the GL, is the central place that stores every accounting transaction the university makes. The entries, called journal entries, are debits and credits made to various accounts. These accounts fall into categories such as assets, liabilities, revenue, expenses, just to name a few. Why the GL matters. The General Ledger is the source of all financial reporting, from your monthly departmental statement of operations to the university's income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. As such, it is critical to keep the GL error-free and secure. Ledger groups store financial transactions in the GL. There are multiple ledgers within the GL, however, there are three that are most visible and meaningful to end users: actual, budget, and commitment ledgers. Transactions posted to the actual ledger are the amounts actually received, expensed, and/or transferred. The budget ledger reflects the amounts approved for spending. The commitment ledger represents encumbrances, the amounts set aside to prevent overspending. Commitment activity includes purchase requisitions that transition to purchase orders, research overhead, and salary contracts and/or approved appointments and all related fringe benefits. Part 2. Fiscal year and accounting periods. The university's fiscal year runs from May 1st to April 30th, representing accounting periods 1 through 12. For example, fiscal 2015 includes the calendar period May 1st, 2014 to April 30th, 2015. Accounting periods record GL transactions for the calendar month. Calendar periods 1 through 12 will close 5 business days following each calendar month. For example, May 31st will close on the 5th business day of June. During these 5 business days, the system will continue to post to both May and June accounting periods, whichever period the transaction is applicable to. On the 5th business day of June, the May period officially closes, signifying the current period is now June. Periods 998, 999, and 0 are periods used by financial services to record year-end adjustments, accruals, deferrals, annual closings, and opening balances where applicable. Part 3. Chart fields and why they matter. What is a chart field? Chart fields are information fields used to provide the university's financial system with the basic structure to segregate and categorize transactional and budget data. In other words, chart fields organize financial data into different buckets, defining the data and reporting who, what, and where. Why do chart fields matter? Assigning the correct chart field values when coding revenue and expenses ensures data integrity. What is data integrity? It's about making sure the data you enter is accurate and consistent. Why is data accuracy important? Data drives financial reporting. Inaccurate or inconsistent data means inaccurate reporting. Inaccurate reports could misrepresent the effectiveness of programs and affect future funding. Who is looking at my data and why? Users of financial information depend on accurate data to make informed decisions. Within Queen's, this includes a wide range of groups, from the Board of Trustees to department heads. Outside of Queen's, this includes decision makers at the local, provincial, federal, and other levels of governing bodies. What causes inaccurate data? Choosing an account that does not best define the transaction, selecting the wrong chart field value in drop-down fields, duplicate entries, processing the entry more than once, processing a journal entry backwards, recoding a transaction posted to the GL in a previous fiscal year. Part 4. Chart fields defined. There are a total of 6 chart fields used to classify data within the Queen's GL: Fund, Department, Account, Program, Class, and Project. Depending on specific reporting requirements, various combinations of chart fields will be used to make up a chart field string when processing transactions. Let's begin with the Fund ID. This ID is used to segregate, control, and monitor resources to help ensure and demonstrate compliance with legal and administrative requirements. For example, Fund 10,000 represents the operating fund. Fund 30,000 represents externally sponsored research funds. Now let's define each of the funds, beginning with Fund 10,000, the operating fund. This fund accounts for the costs of instruction, academic support, student and shared services, operating grants, and other general unrestricted revenue. Fund 15,000, the non-credit fund, accounts for all revenues and expenses associated with lectures, courses, and similar activities which are not recognized by the institution for the purpose of granting credit. The fund is comprised mainly of non-credit professional development and self-interest courses such as continuing medical education and executive development programs. Fund 20,000, the ancillary fund, accounts for all the operations provided as supplementary to the primary function of instruction and research. Although an integral part of the institution's total operations, they are reported separately. The fund includes sales-producing operations ancillary to the normal functions of instruction and research. Examples of ancillary operations include food services, residences, parking, and the computer store. Fund 30,000, the externally sponsored research fund, includes all research activity and contract research funded from restricted sources such as government, private industry, and donors. Unspent monies in this fund are deferred at year-end. Fund 31,000, the internally sponsored research fund, includes all research activity funded from internal university sources. Fund 40,000, the capital fund, accounts for grants, donations, and other funds made available to or by the university specifically for capital projects. Expenditures of a capital nature include building programs and major renovations. Trust funds include both restricted and unrestricted funds. Funds that fall within the 50,000 range are restricted trusts. These funds account for expendable designated gifts, benefactions, grants, or contracts which must be spent in accordance with specific instructions. Restricted expendable funds provided for specific capital and research purposes are reported in the restricted capital and research funds respectively. Unspent monies in this fund are deferred at year-end. Funds beginning with 80,000 through 84999 are unrestricted trusts. These funds account for expendable designated gifts generally directed to a particular faculty, which come with minimal instruction or restriction from the donors. Endowment funds include internal and external endowments and annuities. Funds that fall within the 60,000 range are internal endowments. These funds account for the internal capitalization of funds, which as a result cannot be spent, and the expendable interest allocations thereon. Funds beginning with 70,000 through 70999 are annuities. These funds account for situations where an institution is obliged to pay stipulated amounts on a monthly basis to the donor or the donor's beneficiary. When the agreement terminates upon the death of the donor, the remaining funds become property of the university. Funds beginning with 71,000 through 79999 are external endowments. These funds account for the capitalization of externally restricted gifts, which cannot be spent, and the expendable interest allocations thereon. Unspent expendable monies in these funds are deferred at year-end. Funds that fall within the 90,000 range are agency funds. These funds are used to record monies or transactions for outside groups who have a close relationship with the university. Balances in these funds do not belong to the university and are not reported in the university financial statements unless consolidated as a separate entity. These funds are only used in exceptional circumstances. Now let's talk about the 5 remaining chart field types, beginning with the department ID. This ID identifies the divisional breakdown of an entity into operating units. This ID is also used to grant system access to users. For example, department IDs that fall within the 11,000 range are departments that report to the Faculty of Arts and Science area. IDs that fall within the 18,000 range are departments that report to the Student Affairs area. Department ID 90,000 deserves special mention as this ID will be visible to end users when viewing transactional data tied to their department. The ID is used with the automated intra-fund accounts that automatically populate during system processing involving these accounts. The account ID identifies the nature of a transaction and is used consistently across all departments to record revenues and expenses. Accounts that begin with 4, 5, and 6 are those reflected on your monthly statement of operations report and the university's income statement, as shown here in this table. Accounts that begin with 1, 2, and 3 are balance sheet accounts. The program ID identifies activities or events directed towards the accomplishment of a set of objectives. Program IDs could be used to track a conference, workshop, event, or program. For example, to track all financial activity associated with a specific conference, which we will call Conference 1, you could do so by including Program ID 11601 in the ChartFields string. Much like the Program ID, the Class ID identifies activities relating to people or locations. For example, an employee, faculty member, student, team, visitor, city, or building. By including Class ID 1319 in your ChartFields string, you could track all revenue and expense activity relating to an event that takes place in Calgary. The Project ID identifies activities directed towards the accomplishment of a set of objectives that have a defined beginning and end. Project IDs are used to track research projects, IDs that begin with 3, and/or capital projects, IDs that begin with 4. For example, when a principal investigator is awarded research grant funding from SSHRC, a unique 6-digit project ID beginning with 3 is established and will be used to record all financial activity relating to the specific project. Part 5, ChartFields required versus those that are optional. In all cases, a ChartField string must include all required ChartFields, and in some cases, the string may include optional ChartFields. Required ChartFields are used for university accounting and reporting. Optional ChartFields are used internally by departments to track internal financial activity or to further define transactions. This table displays all ChartField types and identifies which ones are required versus those that are optional. The fund, department, and account IDs are required ChartFields in all cases. The project ID is a required ChartField and is only used when processing activity relating to a research or a capital project. In this case, the ChartField string must include the valid fund, department, account, and project ID at the very least. The program ID is an optional ChartField, except when coding a transaction applicable to a CFI research project, in which case the program ID is a required ChartField. The ChartField string for CFI project activity must always include the valid fund, department, account, project, and program ID at the very least. The class ID is an optional ChartField. Accounts, programs, classes have no boundaries and can be used by all departments. Here we see an example of a ChartField string containing values. The story behind this string might read like this. Dr. Smith in biology is completing a travel expense claim to reimburse a student who traveled to Calgary to attend a conference. The costs relate to Dr. Smith's NSERC project, established within the externally sponsored research fund. Since the transaction relates to research, the required IDs will be the fund, department, account, and project. Since Dr. Smith is also interested in tracking specific conference and location information, he includes 2 optional ChartFields when coding the travel expense, a program ID and a class ID. Part 6, how to request a new ChartField ID. Before requesting a new ChartField ID, it's always a good idea to review current listings to ensure the requested ID does not already exist. A common question often asked is, where can I view current ChartField ID listings? This table displays the 6 types of ChartFields and shows where you can view current ID listings. For example, a public listing for departments, accounts, programs, and classes can be found on the Finance website training page. Users with access to the online Fast Financial Reporting tool can also view these same public listings as well as the fund IDs associated with their ChartField security access. Likewise, users authorized to view specific research project IDs can do so by logging into the FAST system. How to request a new account ID or department ID. Generally speaking, all required IDs in these 2 categories currently exist in the GL structure. However, in special circumstances where it is determined that a new ID is required, discussions will begin with the requesting department unit and the unit's business officer. The requester will complete a ChartField request form and forward it to Financial Services. Class IDs and program IDs. Occasionally, when a generic ID or one that best describes the required purpose in either of these categories does not already exist in the public listings, the requester will complete a ChartField request form and forward it to Financial Services. To request a new trust or endowment fund be established, complete a ChartField request form, attach all terms of reference documents, and forward all documents to Financial Services. Terms of reference documents are typically coordinated through advancement. For additional trust and endowment information and assistance, visit the Financial Services Faculty Staff page, contact the Department of Development, or email the Financial Reporting team at financial.reporting@queensu.ca. How to request a new project ID. The process for requesting a new research project ID begins with the Principal Investigator and University Research Services. To learn more, visit the Tools for Research at Queen's website. When a new capital project ID is required, the process begins with Campus Planning and Development. To learn more, visit the Campus Planning and Development website. Part 7. Tips and Noteworthy Items. In this section of our tutorial, we will share some helpful tips and noteworthy items relating to specific accounts and define some of the common terminology used when working within the GL structure and system processes. Let's begin with budget nodes. Budget nodes are account IDs ending in 0. These accounts record budget and commitment activity and are used for reporting purposes. In this example, all expense accounts that begin with 606 roll up to budget node 606000. This node reports to the total budget, total outstanding commitments, and total expenses, all relating to printing services. Smart coding is a coding method used by Queens that groups similar items together, making it easy to identify what budget node these expenses or revenues roll up to for reporting purposes. In this example, the groups of accounts that begin with 606 is reflective of smart coding. Each account can be easily identified as a type of expense relating to printing services. Internal cost recovery accounts, also referred to as ICR accounts. Every expense node contains an ICR account. In this table, we can see all accounts that roll up to the expense node 606000. The ICR account under this node is account 606002. When recovering all or any portion of the cost from another internal source, the ICR account used to record the entry is the one located under the node containing the account that was originally expensed. For example, if the Departmental Operating Fund pays for the original cost of photocopying on account 606001 and the cost is to be recovered from a research project, the entry to record the recovery is a debit to the research project using the same account 606001 and a credit to the Departmental Operating Fund using an ICR account identified under the 606 expense node. By looking through this list of accounts, we see that the ICR account is 606002. Account 450101, Internal Sale. This account is used to record the sale of a good or service from an ancillary operation, for example, Event Services, Donald Gordon Center, Creative Design Unit, to a Queens Department unit where the price of the good or service includes a markup which provides for a recovery for other indirect costs incurred. Only the Ancillary Operations Fund 20,000 should use account 450101. There is no impact on the cash flows or net income of the university. Account 450101 is used to record the internal revenue, and the appropriate expense account that begins with 6 is used to record the expense side of the transaction. For example, the Creative Design Unit creates custom signage inserts for the Biology Departmental Office. Since the Creative Design Unit is an ancillary operation, the journal entry to record the sale is a debit to Biology's Operating Fund, Graphic Design Account 606007, and a credit to the Creative Design Unit's Ancillary Fund 20,000, Internal Sale Account 450101. Account 480001, Revenue University Funds, is used when reallocating funds from one unit within Queens to another unit within Queens. Revenue University Funds are funds that cannot be tied back to an external source. There is no impact on the cash flows or the net income of the university. Account 480001 must be used on both sides of the entry. For example, here we see the Faculty of Arts and Science Operating Fund is providing research startup funds to a Biology Research Principal Investigators research project. To record the entry, the Revenue University Funds account 480001 is used on both sides of the entry. Account 480001 should never be used to transfer carry-forward monies within the operating fund 10,000, to or from agency fund the 90,000 series, to or from externally sponsored research projects, and it should never be used for in-year revenue activity that can be tied to an external source. For guidance and assistance with these types of transactions, contact your faculty unit business officer or email financial.reporting@queensu.ca. Here are some more noteworthy items that help us better understand why ChartFields matter. Consider the impact in our example number 1. Accounts that begin with 614 are used for capital equipment items over $10,000. When these accounts aren't used for these purchases, they won't be capitalized. To learn more, visit the Financial Services training page. Consider the impact in our example number 2. Account 641017, miscellaneous expenses, versus account 600009, other supplies. Neither account is ideal, but proves how important it is to choose the most accurate account, as the smallest wording can have an impact on reporting. These two accounts fall under two different reporting nodes. Consider, if the fiscal year reports 600009, other supplies, as 35% of the total office supplies budget node 600000, does this really help with decision making? Consider the impact in our example number 3. Every expense node contains an ICR account. Using an ICR account outside of its reporting node means one node will be overvalued and one node will be undervalued. Another term often used in and around data processing is combination edits, also known as combo edits. Combo editing is a set of rules used to improve data integrity at the time transactions are being entered into the system. Combo edits prevent chart field entries that are not valid and will display an error message to the user. It is important to note that combo edits do not prevent all incorrect chart field combinations, and is the reason why it is important to fully understand the impact of choosing the correct chart field and chart field string. For example, one sample rule defined by combo editing states that all transactions require a fund, department, and account. The string shown here would not pass this combo edit because it's looking for a valid department ID, which appears to be missing from the string. Another sample rule states the transactions posted to a research project ID must include a valid fund ID applicable to the project ID. The string here would not pass this combo edit rule because it's looking at research project ID 388001 and looking for the fund ID to be 30,000, not 10,000. Combination code, or combo code, is another term you will hear when working with the HR payroll system. A combination code is a 6-digit unique number used solely in the HR module. The code represents the complete combination of chart fields required to process a salary payment. Users processing a salary payment by way of the HR module must include a valid combo code containing valid chart fields. Well, now that we have a better understanding of the GL and why chart fields matter, occasionally you may still need to ask, who can assist me with choosing the correct account ID? Often, it may be your faculty unit business officer who proves to be the best resource, or you can also email financial.reporting@queensu.ca or visit the Financial Services training page. Remember, we all have a role to play in producing relevant, accurate financial information to support decision-making at Queen's. This concludes our tutorial. To learn more or to review additional training resources and video tutorials, visit the Financial Services training page.